Hello, this is Jonathan Shackey. Shackey for 2020. Free your immortality. I've decided that I'm going to go with weekly rants because I'm losing part of my. Okay. Rather than daily. Um, I was stopped because I wasn't seeing any traction at all on YouTube. But went over to BitChute and I saw that I had um, actually some people watching over there. So I'm gonna keep going. Um, but I'll just do it weekly in order to save everybody time. So this week we saw some interesting effects in the coronavirus. First, America has seen homespawned cases and has seen 11 deaths out of the few people who were flown over. When this all started, there were 89 people. Um, Initially, people who flew back from that area or who were on the cruise ship that had visited that area. It can't be 89 anymore. At least one healthcare worker uh, has come down with it. We've had 11 people die. This is this is a real thing, and it is really loose in America. The 2 week quarantine is obviously way too short. Um, Looks like this disease can be in your system for at least 6 weeks before you come down with a fever and the lung problems. It um, it seems to have the ability to very slowly uh, inoculate or spread through your lung tissue and your mucous membranes. We've had the first person die. We've had a report out of China that somebody died 2 days after being released. Um, they were released into a hospice, quarantine hospice, um, and um, 2 days later they got sick and died before they got to the hospital. So they had been hospitalized. They were released from the hospital, having appeared to have gotten better, and then they died. Not just got sick again, died. Just gone. This is much worse than anybody um, could have predicted, unless they specifically built it. Um, a second study has tried to do the demographics and response gaming uh, and come up with between 50 and 68 million killed by this by the time it plays out. But the thing is, that assumes that people can get well. We've had reinfections with the codons in there for infecting T cells. Um, we know that this is an AIDS flu. It kills your white blood cells. that means that in an infected person, it kills the white blood cells that come to clean up the mess that it's left in the lungs. How to fight off this infection? Well, you, I, I don't know. You suppress it long enough for the lymph nodes that aren't affected, for your other lymphocytes uh, to handle the thing. The T lymphocytes are the primary means of getting viral DNA uh, to the marrow in order to make your antibodies. They say they're going to be testing people for antibodies before releasing them, but I don't know if that will work because it will attack the T cells that come for it. It's going to be a touch and go thing. Um, can the T cell destroy it before it infects the T cell? Um, it seems there's a couple strains of the coronavirus. There was one, the mutated strain that seems to be responsible for 80% of the deaths, is a fast strain. And then there's a slower strain that seems to be being carried. So what happens is this thing has an easy mutation to a faster, more prolific strain. And when that happens, you're going to get a cluster of thousands of deaths, while the slow strain is out there moving among the populace, and it's going to become something that the human race is just going to have to deal with from now on. And every flu season, it's going to come back because people, they say, don't touch your face, don't touch it. And in the very presentation on this, the girl licks her finger to turn the next page on it. These are habits people have. These are things, Ocasio-Cortez is warning people about, not touching your face. And meanwhile, she's like, primping herself up all the time because it's like, whoa, these people in the middle of telling us not to do, are just crazy. So yeah, continue to treat everything in public as if it is infected. Think of your hands as if they have poop on them while you're out in public. You would never put a poopy hand near your face. Think of your hands as if they have poop on them every time you've touched something in public, until you wash them and get them home and wash them thoroughly. That's about the best advice I can give you. And if somebody sneezes on you, you're hosed. I've had a cold the last couple weeks. Actually, since and started inoculating at the February 10th, 12th Valentine's party night we took the kid to. So, coronavirus, keep yourself safe out there. There's rumors about it being 5G, and they talk about how 60 megahertz is absorbed by the oxygen molecule. And okay, so what happens? Well, if you have high enough energy in 60 megahertz, you can break the bond that holds together oxygen and make free radicals. Great. Nobody is using 60 megahertz for free radicals because of that. If you actually tried to broadcast at 60 or gigahertz, um, the broadcast would be absorbed within a few meters by the atmosphere, and you wouldn't be able to communicate with it at all. So that we know for a fact that they aren't using 60 gigahertz, because if they did, it wouldn't work. Just like we know for a fact that they're not using any frequency which is strongly absorbed by water. Again, because then every time it was foggy, that their stuff wouldn't work. Most of the 5G is in the uh, high hundreds of megahertz, less than a gigahertz range. Um, think of it this way: your AM had kilohertz up to 1600 kilohertz, so 1.6 megahertz. FM was in the 100 megahertz range. 106 megahertz is at the top of the FM band. You've had devices in your homes which are in the gigahertz band. My security system here uses 2 gigahertz band stuff to transmit stuff around. Your Wi-Fi is also in the multiple gigahertz bands. It isn't harmful. They're just using the same frequency range as the Wi-Fi. Some of them are going up to 30 gigahertz, which is pretty high. I think AT&T has a phase strategy where they have denser grids. Okay, the cellular network has cell towers spread out throughout the country. It's millions of them, literally. Where the cell towers are a few hundreds of feet or away from each other, they can use these higher frequencies because they don't penetrate as far. And that means they can get higher bandwidth there. Okay, so I'm right next to a couple of major highways in a decent sized city. St. Louis is a decent sized city. So if I did 5G, I'd get really great speeds. I'd get 5, 7, 10 megahertz mega downloads easy. Okay, because they have to take this bandwidth, right, and share it among everybody who's using that cell site. The higher frequency, the more bandwidth you get, and the higher energy that the photons each have. But they're not going to be using an energy that can be absorbed by water or oxygen or nitrogen or anything that's common in the atmosphere, because then it wouldn't work in all the types of weather. They want to have their customers able to use it 24/7, and so they can't use these absorbing frequencies. Also, they can't. So these people complain saying 5G is going to hurt your body. Don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand health physics. They don't understand the the way that communications work. They don't understand the way that the um, body, that the radiation works. So, I don't fault them for being ignorant of these things. It takes time and effort to learn these things, and I happen to have had the background to have learned them. Um, so let's move on to the next thing. The stock market volatility. We saw starting kind of the middle of not this past week, but the week before, uh, a tip off that's the peak, um, and the stock analysts were saying it's peaking. This looks kind of classic because it had been going up and then it stalled, and then an event happens, and it doesn't matter what the event is, but it because the stock market was up here, uh, it crashes and it drops down, and you get this massive sell off quickly. Biggest sell off the Dow has ever seen in a single day. And then what happens? Monday, uh, but this is how common. You get a Friday drop that's massive, and then the Monday it bounces back up. And Monday's bounce was what was it? 1,300 points back. And so you get these fast sell-offs, fast bounces, and we're seeing that based upon the news cycle for the whole week. Poo pow pow, poo pow, poo pow. Volatility. That you can calculate the volatility index, and it's gone through the roof. And you can calculate, and so safe havens are pumped up. Gold went up to 1,900. Bitcoin's back up to 20,000 almost, and you're seeing these things happen. Get out of the stock market. I said I got out of the stock market 2 weeks after the Microsoft judgment came in 2000, and smartest thing I did. I lost only the gains I had from January to March. Uh, 1 quarter's worth of growth, and that market went to 50% drop. So I held my gains by getting out of the market. I moved it into a real estate fund that the mutual fund offered. Um, get out of the markets. Stay safe. Um, Guaranteed annuities, real estate annuities. Uh, Real estate might drop again, especially if there's the credit loosening is probably going to help the real estate again. Um, sorry. Um, so you've got that going for you if you get back into real estate. These annuities are usually do multi-million-dollar corp commercial properties, not residential uh, houses in ones and twos. Um, so if things go south on the supply chain, um, there's a lot of people spreading doom and gloom, but America will not have issues with the food supply. We will not have issues with common products like paper, um, because those are have to be manufactured against near their source. Uh, Paper, Weyerhaeuser uh, is owns like 5% of the U.S. forest land, just so that they can make sure they have enough pulp for paper, and they grow fast-growing trees, and it's, most people don't understand the economics of it. If you want to see more of something in the world, make use of it. Um, there's no shortage of cows or chickens, um, but useless birds like a bald eagle, there's a shortage of. Useless. There's no shortage of sheep, but useless things like wolves are endangered. If you want to, there's no shortage of pet dogs. Even pet dogs much bigger than a wolf, and much more capable of violence than a wolf. You pit a modern fighting dog like a Doberman or a uh, pit bull against a wolf, and the wolf is dead every time. The wolf has just been having to deal with nature. Mankind has planned a pit bull. So, um, if you wanted to see something flourish, make use of it and make it private. The way to stop the destruction of elephants is not to halt the ivory trade and burn all the ivory that that the poachers get, and destroy the elephants with this. Uh, it's to make elephants private property. Let people sell the ivory, which there's a great demand for. It's a beautiful material to carve. It's a beautiful material, and we shouldn't be destroying it ever, even if it's captured from poachers. It's disgusting what the way that these stupid elites have done things. I would immediately restart the trade in ivory if I ever became president. I would immediately push to undo that damaging, horrible thing. Privatize, farm those elephants, make those elephants useful to the world, because they are. They're beautiful. Tusks are a wonderful thing to make wonderful carvings of, because it holds such good detail. Anyway, politics with Super Tuesday have gotten crazy. I mean, the weekend before Super Tuesday, you saw five people drop out of the Democratic race. I mean, oh God, the last their last two debates have been cutthroat, cutting down each other, bashing each other's policies. It's just knives out. And what did it get them? Well, the people who were knifing each other um, uh, have all dropped out. And Elizabeth Warren knifed Bloomberg in, in in the first debate he was in, and now they're both out of the race. That infighting doesn't get what you where you want to be. Um, it had the field continued to be split, um, it is quite likely that Bernie would have come off the big winner with a couple clear wins, um, and everybody else would have. But Bernie probably would have won every state, but the rest of them of the delegates would have been split among five or three or four of these players. Warren couldn't even manage more than 9 delegates, and she's had a, a ground campaign from a year ago, and it's so yeah, it's it's really bad. So what they did is they took everybody who uh, Joe's campaign took everybody who they thought would steal votes from Joe and bought him off. You know what happened? They bought him off because it all happened over a weekend, and the weekend before Super Tuesday, when no candidate in his right mind would drop out unless he's got somebody saying, "I'll pay off all your campaign. That's you'll be good to go," and we'll and you'll get a tidy sum. The same thing they did for Bernie in 2016. So when now on the Republican side, you got a couple wise guys trying to go against um, to go against Trump, and they got nothing. They got nothing. Um, um, so there was this multi-party minor candidate debate, the free and open debates, and rather than um, making it a free event to go to, uh, they brought in all these candidates, and they had 30 of them or something over a day with hours long debates between each group of them, and 10 sitting down at once, and um, lots of libertarians on that stage, but none of the big players. Lots of other, there's Republicans and Democrats, and nobody big. Um, Zoltan Istvan showed up, and Borzion, and uh, Borzion presented himself better than before. He he's obviously had some coaching, had some presentation help. Dan's done a great job for him. We'll see. He's still going nowhere on bringing people into the transhumanist party. It's exactly what I figured would happen, and the same thing is going to happen with the rest of these small candidates. They're never going to get any traction. They're never going to make any of their ideas known. Um, the truth of the matter is, I have multiple times seen the ideas that I started take root and make mainstream. I don't care if I get credit. Doesn't matter. Um, The people who shared it know what's going on. So the open debate, it was pointless. I mean, nobody cares what these people think. Nobody's going to vote for them. In and It's not going to help. We're seeing the result of the racial divide that Obama stirred up, and the mainstream media has tried to keep going under Trump. Um, Trump Trump appoints the first chief of the Air Force, the first general officer in command of the Air Force, and he happens to be a black man. And how do they spin this? I have black friends. Trump had a more diverse cabinet than, than Obama, and they say he's the racist. Trump, you literally can't make this up. He has shown no signs of racism in his entire life, um, and it's complete bullshit. Uh, he, uh, somebody said, "Are women going to be paid as much as men?" And he said, "If they do the same work, if they work as hard as a man, they'll be paid the same." Um, he's not, did he could have the day he sat down there said, "Hey, get the freaking gays out of the military." He didn't. We know Mike Pence is, uh, you know, against gays on a moral level, um, as am I. The Bible is quite clear. They're not going to get into the kingdom of heaven. Um, if you have same-sex attraction and you act on it, uh, you are not following Christ. You are not following Torah. It is quite clear in the Bible. If you do not follow Christ and Torah, you will not reach the kingdom of heaven. That is clear as day in the Bible, and that might get me banned as a homophobe from uh, YouTube. But I'm not afraid of homos. I hung out with them. I know them very. I know a number of homosexuals. I've in my youth participated in such activities because I didn't have anything going on, and I was not socially very good at things. But it's just, the way it is. The, the cure, the response, and the if you have done such things, the only way you can repent of homosexuality is by getting into a heterosexual marriage and having a loving heterosexual relationship with your wife. You must take when you have done a sin, you have a burden that is higher than someone who has never done that. Your burden is no longer just not doing the sin. The, your burden becomes not doing the sin and doing the counter to make the demonstration that you can't do that sin again. That it's not in your nature anymore. Uh, so I've known men who have done that, and I'm very proud of them for doing it. Uh, it is the way to truth and peace. One last topic. Yeah, the last topic was the racial divide. The racism. If you were a racist, the racism is not against morality. It's not against the Bible. It's not against good uh, thinking. Um, if you were going to try to avoid danger in inner cities in America, um, the single most effective way to do it would be to be racist against blacks and Hispanics. If you literally avoided places where blacks and Hispanics were, um, you would avoid putting yourself in 90% of the danger in those cities. It is simply the fact. And that is, um, whether that is good or bad, is immaterial. It is effective. And that is why racism continues. If the black people want to avoid having people be racist against them, they must address within their own community the problems of the violence and the killings in those communities. They must address the fact that those young men are the ones committing burglaries, are the ones committing murders, not only in their own communities, but throughout the country against whites. So if the black men want to stop being treated like they are dangerous, they need to stop being dangerous. And I can't make them do that. If they want to stop being incarcerated at, what is it, 10 times the rate of blacks, of whites, they need to stop doing crimes at 10 times the rate of whites. They need to stop. We can't have 7% of the country doing 50% of the murders and think that it's safe to be around that 7% of the country. And it's even worse than that because of the demographics of the people who are doing the murdering. It's not the 60-year-olds. It's not the 40-year-olds with a wife, with kids and the girl at home. It's the 20-year-olds trying to make a name for themselves, trying to get something in life. It's the teens. In any case, um, how do we heal that divide? Well, you have to repeal the welfare um, the way it is done. Um, my plan, of course, is out there. We no longer give people money and let them keep their dignity when they're on welfare. We set up neighborhood uh, housing and food places. Anybody goes in, They get a room. Anybody goes in, they get food. Doesn't matter if you're drunk, you're on drugs, doesn't matter. Can't turn people away. Don't turn people away unless you don't have room. And if you don't have room, then you call a bus and bus them over to the next one. Um, this does two things. It gets them social, not being among other people. You can be insular and veg out, and you don't get anything done. And they aren't going to be comfortable rooms. They aren't. It isn't going to be great food. It's going to be, you know, keep you alive food. Peanut butter sandwiches, bologna sandwiches, uh, you know, at least oatmeal in the morning, at least rice and beans at dinner. If they get donated uh, meat, they buy meat, but they'll have the rice and beans. They can add meat to the rice and beans. If they get donated spices, they can add spices. Um, Rice and beans will keep you alive. It isn't fun. Speaking of which, got a couple pounds of beans and a couple pounds of rice sitting in the kitchen. Everybody should have that. Uh, it'll keep you going a week in case you run out, and it's literally $2 worth of stuff. Um, plan ahead. Keep yourself safe. Safe. Peace and joy to everyone. This is Jonathan Shatke, ending for today.